Good afternoon and welcome to the Lebanon Utility Service Board meeting on this 18th day of November 2015. Let the record show that prior to this meeting there was an executive session, there was also a working session. All meetings were properly advertised. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Let the record also show that we do have one board member missing. Mr. Urban's not here this afternoon. He had prior obligations and was not able to attend. Next item on the agenda is approval of minutes from the November 4th meeting 2015. Has everybody received those minutes? Had an opportunity to read them? Are there any corrections? Or if not, I would entertain a motion that we approve them.
So move.
Second.
Moved and seconded that we approve the minutes of the November 4th, 2015 meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, next item on the agenda is brought to us by Assistant Engineer David Van Wine in regards to the electrical operations reliability metrics. I have a mouthful. Electrical operations reliability metrics. This is an information item. David, good afternoon. Welcome.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me. We do our reliability online now through the. Do I need to stand right in front of this? Through the APPA e-reliability tracker. That way they look at it too, so they can keep their numbers together nationally and compare how we do nationally. Here's basically the guys have an outage call. They give me the address. Then either they tell me the substation or I can figure that out. And we go through the circuit, the number of people out, and the time. And here's like the primary causes: weather, equipment, wildlife, human accident, things like that get put in there. And I'll just go to, we can do reports on how we're doing on like safety and all that, and I'll get the dates in there, then I'll explain what those all are. And I'll go up to this year to date so far. Let's see, and we do it up to a minute in duration, that way like all the blinks aren't on there, and it'll generate a report. Hopefully it did it. And our AC it's the average service availability index, and it's basically a percentage. We can tell customers our power's on 99.99% of the time. The CAIDI is the customer average interruption duration index, and basically what that tells you is if you have an outage, you're going to be out 69 minutes. That's basically the average of an outage. Usually they're not that long, mostly during a storm or something. When they have a big outage, they have to run out, find the fault before they can get people back on. Most of the time, they're smaller outages, they get to them pretty quickly. And the SAIDI averages the system average index duration indice, and basically that tells you if you're on our system, so far this year, every customer on our system has been out an average of 37 minutes. And then like the safety at the bottom, that's the frequency you can expect to be. Every customer on our system can expect to be out half a time per year so far this year. So half our customers have been out once this year on average. I did have a folder here to tell me, comparing this to the, where'd they go? I had all our numbers here compared to, if you give me a minute here to find it, I'm on the wrong computer here, that's what. I'm having trouble bringing up those reports here. Hold on.
So you're looking for peer information, is that what you're?
Well, comparing this, I had a report showing us from last year, comparing us to last year as well as, and I lost, rats, I've lost everything. Here's where I need to be. here's the spreadsheet. As you can see, 2 years ago, our Katy was 82 minutes and our Sadie was 54. Last 2014, we had a lot of trouble and we did a lot of our system upgrade. Those were 91 for Katy and 159 for Sadie. And this year, we're down to 69 and that 3.06, I don't think that's correct. I think I had the wrong number there. But anyway, as you can see, our numbers have improved as we've improved our system over the last year. Up at the north sub, we had trouble with our battery racks. They wouldn't totally trip the breakers or they wouldn't close them back in correctly. We fixed that problem and we got all new relays. So we got a lot of things improved over the last year to improve our system.
What does Region 2 represent?
Our area, the Midwest,
Okay.
Indiana, Michigan, Illinois, Ohio, Kentucky, they compare us to our neighbors
So the Ohio Valley,
basically,
basically.
yes. And also on this, with the report, I can do a cause pie chart here. You guys will find this interesting, at least we do. Do it for so far this year. You'll see that our main problem is squirrels. We killed 34 that we know of. There's some unknown here, and those were all those are blinks during the day or at night. The relay opened and closed for whatever reason, and it held. Could have been a tree branch getting in there causing a problem and falling out. Some of those are probably squirrels, but you see our biggest problem is the squirrels, and then we have equipment issues. We have equipment wears out or things of that nature. We had that problem today at Scott Barrett. We had a hot tap. It had a loose connection and it burned off today. That was one of the outages. Guys, if you guys want to look at that, I would need that back. But, it's things like that. Equipment gets old.
Sure.
Goes bad.
So this was today,
That was, yeah.
an issue today?
While we were getting ready to go to lunch, that happened real quick. You can see we've had six incidences with birds, and a lot of storm issues, but that's normal. And some of those it knocks a tree a tree gets knocked off or a branch gets knocked off. You can call it a tree problem or a storm problem, but I usually call those storm because it's happened due to the storm. And with our reports, we can also look at what circuits are the bad ones. I can do that real quick for you.
I think it's also important to note, you were talking about squirrels, we're proactive on that. We've got squirrel sleeves on the poles, and yet they still seem to jump off branches, hit the lines, and create problems.
Well, they can hop on the pole here and run all the way to the north side of town, so it's hard to get them all. And here, we got our circuits by rank. The worst one we had was the 1232, but this summer we had an outage where the guys couldn't find the fault on it. They ran the thing twice, couldn't find the fault. We finally just went ahead and closed it in and it held. So we never really couldn't figure out what that one was. And then there was another problem, these are all mostly caused by storm outages. The 1261 was another issue where I think the conductor burned off, but the insulation held the wire up so the guys couldn't see the fault. And finally, they closed the breaker back in and it dropped that wire, letting them know where it was. So that took a while to find. But so mostly we can look at these circuits and say, okay, what was our main problem in the 1232? We know where to start looking for our biggest issues and figuring out what we need to fix. And then down here goes by.
And you can drill down by cause then on each feeder. So is it trees, is it equipment, that sort of thing. So really, this will be a tremendous tool for us for maintenance planning and that sort of thing in the future.
Absolutely.
And this one ranks them by the number of interruptions, and the 1243 had the most interruptions, and that's the one that goes out into the annex area. A lot of those it'll have the blink, at the middle of the night or whatever, the circuit will close back in. It hasn't knocked anyone out of power. I mean, I record all those outages. The big ones, the little ones, I record all those and keep track of those, just so we know. I mean, if we're having blinks, that's a problem as well. So.
And we see that on our SCADA system. Whether anybody notices or not, the SCADA system sees it, so.
Okay.
Yeah, the guys, when a relay trips, the guys get an email sent by the SCADA system. They know it trips. It'll tell them it's open and it'll tell them it's closed. So if it closes in and no one calls, then they'll worry about it during the day. They won't go out in the middle of the night.
But I still sent an email to Peter Corby.
Yes, they mentioned that, so. In a good way, Jay.
Yeah. Well, that's how I got the picture of the 3 dead squirrels this weekend.
There was 2 more Monday morning, so there was 2 more squirrels taken Monday morning, so.
Wow.
Yeah, they are. In this part of the country, they're the main culprit, so they cause a lot of problems.
Well, and that's true, but I think if we would looked at years past, before we got aggressive on tree trimming, that percentage would have been, instead of squirrels, it would have been trees.
Yeah,
We'd
yeah.
still had as many squirrel outages.
Possibly more, though, because they jump from the tree branch right onto the line. and-
Exactly.
Yeah.
But since we started aggressively the 3-year cycle going through the entire town, we've seen a significant reduction on the tree outages.
Absolutely. So I don't know if there's anything else you guys want to look at on this. I mean, it gives us another tool to look at what's causing all our problems. I mean, other than the squirrels, what circuits may be problematic for us. The 1243, it's just so long that that's the main problem. There's a lot to it with fewer customers on it.
How many years have we been using this program for tracking?
The e-reliability we started this year. The APPA had an Excel spreadsheet that I've been using for probably 15 years.
Okay.
That's where I've got our other numbers for.
So you had backloaded the 2013 information into 2014?
Yeah, you could-
Off of data that you had manually kept?
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
This, as you can see, like I say, when David did the old spreadsheet format,
Yeah.
there was good information, but this gives you so many more capabilities
you
to.
couldn't rank your circuits this easily. You had to really do a lot of manual stuff to find any issues and anything like that.
Awesome. Great work.
All right. Is there anything else?
Comments, questions?
I've got to acknowledge David for really taking the bull by the horns with this, and has done a great job with it, and takes a lot of pride in keeping this up. And he always makes sure that the guys report to him first thing in the morning if he had seen something, what it was, so we can keep this accurate. So, and the
Okay.
guys understand the importance as well, and that's even more important, I think.
Yeah, a lot of this comes off their overtime sheets, but outages during the day, they know to fill them out. They're pretty good at it. Sometimes I have to ask, but they typically know what's going on, so they know to do it. So we keep records of the outages.
Perfect. Thanks for
right.
the information. Thanks for your dedication. We appreciate your efforts, David.
All right,
Very good.
you're welcome.
Thank you. Pete, be sure and pass that on to the guys, too. We really appreciate all that, and it helps a lot. Thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda, Mike Whitman brings to us some information regarding operations building update. Mr. Whitman, how are you this afternoon?
Good afternoon. And
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Please remember to be safe out there. I want to provide a brief update on the status of the new operations building. The building floor slab was poured November the 11th. Pre-engineered metal building, the steel, started arriving November 16th.
You pull the mic back, well, I can't hear you.
You can't hear me?
No,
Is this better?
that's better.
Oh, should I start over?
No.
Oh. Please remember to be safe out there.
I said no.
That's always worth saying again, right? The building floor slab was poured November the 11th, so there's a lot of concrete out there. The pre-engineered metal building, i.e. the steel, started arriving the 16th of November, and steel erection will begin, if not today, fairly soon, weather permitting. The stoning for the asphalt work began the 12th of November, and the base course is supposed to be installed by the end of this month, again, weather permitting. Most of the site concrete should wrap up this week, pending good weather. However, this may go on until the end of the month. There will be some additional concrete to finish up in the spring, but most of the concrete is occurring right now. Site utilities are approximately 75% complete. Sewer line, gray water lines will be run soon. Retention pond and drainage swale work will continue on as the weather allows. So that's moving. Our contractor plans to have the building enclosed with temporary heat by mid-December. So by Christmas, the building will start to look like a building. The Main Street water line construction work is planned to begin next week and to be completed in December. We remain on schedule for a mid-March substantial completion date. So if all goes well, we should be moving in around the 1st of April. Are there any questions?
Well, we've really been fortunate with the dry weather when it came. I mean,
Things seem to be working
they
very well
rocked
out
and
there.
rolled. They had no lost days probably for 6-7 weeks. And so that allowed them to do all the earthwork, get all the concrete formed up, run all the underground lines, that sort of thing. So we've really been fortunate with the weather.
Yeah,
Oh,
the
goodness,
weather's
yes, we
really helped
have.
us
To
out.
have put concrete in the ground this time of the year without frost in the ground is huge.
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolute huge.
So it's worked out very well for everybody.
Yeah.
Any further questions? Okay.
Pray for good weather.
And be safe.
Yeah, and be safe. That's right, absolutely.
Yeah, and be safe.
And be safe. Thank you, Mike. Okay, next item on the agenda, Mike Whitman still will champion for us. He has a building change order to bring to the order of the board, and this is an action item.
Okay. I'm requesting that the board approve change order number 1 to Frederick's Contractors for the amount of $107,435. The change order is for 14 changes to Frederick's scope of work, and I thought that I would briefly go down the 14 for you. Provide IDEM required asbestos building inspection. That's an additional $713. Provide fiber and electrical conduits that were not in the initial scope. That is an additional $11,800. There was a credit because we removed a wash service pit from the garage area, so that was worth approximately $12,000. There was another credit because we decided to eliminate an overhead door, so that's approximately an $800 credit. Now, you might think the door ought to be worth more than that, but you've got to remember they've got to still brick up. You know, you have the open space, so now you've got to brick that up. So that's why the number is perhaps a little less than what you would first think. Climbing pole pit grate cover is an additional $1,800. So we're going to have a pole in the building so that Pete and the line guys can practice going up and down on the poles and so forth. In bad weather situations and for training. And so we need to put a grader on that. That wasn't initially foreseen. Provide gray water infrastructure. This is going to allow us to use non-potable but fairly clean water for toilet water and watering the landscape and things of that nature. So adding the gray water pipe is approximately $19,000. We've asked that Frederick's spread the spoils, the excess dirt, if you will, approximately 12,000 cubic yards. You may recall that Frederick's, during the bid evaluation, gave us a credit of $194,000 so that we, you know, if we wanted to keep the soil on site instead of having them move it off-site. So we saved initially $194K. Well, you still have 12,000 cubic yards of dirt you got to do something with, and so we're spreading it throughout the site. And so to do that cost us approximately $53,000. So for that particular deal, we come out far money ahead, over $100,000 ahead.
Exactly.
We're going to add some bollards. There's an interior door in the building over by the meter shop and storeroom, and so the forklift truck will be going through this doorway. And so we thought we ought to put some protective bollards on each side. That's going to cost us approximately $1,500. We wanted and needed some additional electric outlets for the server room, for the server and the switches and for the computer hardware. That's going to be an additional $1,400. We asked that we include 20 additional voice and data outlets in the garage area, specifically for disaster recovery. So if we lose this building, we can move our staff over there and plug in. And with the servers being over there, we can be up and running and acting like a utility in a fairly reasonable and short period of time. At least that's our goal. That's an additional $9,600. We wanted 4 flagpoles and lights to eliminate the flagpoles. 4 flagpoles. Well, United States, State of Indiana, City of Lebanon, Lebanon Utilities. That's an additional $16,500. There is something called a petamat that'll go into the lobby. It's kind of a heavy-duty kind of
Graded walk-off map.
walk in so that, you don't bring in a lot of dirt into the building. That is an additional $1,200. We're going to have wiring to lock out the air compressor from the generator to eliminate any power surges in the building. That's an additional $2,000. And then we're going to have some dimming lights for the garage and storeroom areas. So these lights will adjust automatically depending on how much other light is coming into those areas. So it'll, if there's a lot of bright light coming in, then it'll dim the lights down. If it's a dark day or something, then the lights will go back up. So there'll be an overall savings on that for the use of the electricity and so forth. And that's going to be an additional $1,800 for that.
Yeah, if the board will remember, we focused on minimizing energy usage for the facility. And one of those things are sun tunnels in the garage to allow in natural light. And so what these harvesting sensors will do is if there needs to be a certain level of lighting maintained, if the guys are in there, it will automatically raise and lower the lights depending on how much additional light we need.
Yeah, with the ambient lights.
Right.
Okay, so it actually then captures the savings.
Oh, yeah, exactly. This is something that'll pay for itself in
Exactly.
a few months.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are there other questions?
The petty mat, is that a built-in mat? So it reduces the surface area and then the mat goes in so that it's,
Right,
okay.
right. It's like a cutout in the flooring, Dan,
Okay.
and there's like grates across it. And then so depending on how soiled, cause then the soil drops down below, and then occasionally you just got to pull it out and clean your little pit out.
Sure, okay, okay.
But that, otherwise you've got walk-off mats, which is a regular ongoing expense. So this is a one-time.
So that, again, should be cost-saving on a
Exactly.
long-term
Right.
basis.
Right.
The gray water, the addition of the gray water, that was a decision that we had made after the fact, so that was certainly anticipated.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I'm glad you raised that, Dan, is one of the things that we know is in 20, 25 years, we're going to have a potable water issue for Lebanon. So one of the things that we need to take a lead on is for non-potable uses or non-drinking water uses, we need to start looking at gray water, which essentially is water that's gone through the wastewater treatment plant. I mean, it's been clean, purified, so on and so forth, but we'd just be dumping it back in the stream if we didn't start making use of it for like irrigation and non-drinking water purposes and that sort of thing.
This
So,
includes the ability to irrigate with that water?
Yes,
Is that-
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
it's not just internal
no,
utilization?
no,
Okay.
right.
Okay. Yeah.
I was just going to ask about item 2 there, the additional fiber and electrical lines, 11,768. Were those unforeseen lines, or those were just extras that we found that we might need, or?
You're referencing item number 2?
Yeah.
Yeah, we just realized after the fact that we needed to run fiber in, and that wasn't accounted for initially in the scope of work. And so we had to have that, to make the computers run and things of that nature. So it was just an item that wasn't picked up initially.
Okay, thanks.
Uh-huh.
Which also, I mean, disaster recovery, if in fact we get into a disaster recovery situation, it's not just the utilities, in all probability, they're going to be relocated to that location. It will be the city of, because if we're not able to stay here, the city offices certainly won't be able to occupy the building either.
And we all share the same servers and
Yes, yes, so, okay. The $52,910 for additional grading, now does that put us in compliance with any flood zone issues so that we're not corrupting other areas out there? We're in compliance?
we'll let Gary answer that. He did the grading design.
Yeah. First of all, I got to recuse myself from voting on the change order, but, yeah, we checked it out. We overlaid the floodplain map onto our grading plan, and we're outside the floodplain, so there's no interference with that. And just to clarify one other thing while I got the mic, the original site plan showed an electric conduit and a communication conduit to be installed by owner. And so in lieu of doing that, we ended up putting 2 communication conduits in and 2 4-inch electric conduits, and having the contractor do the work, so.
Okay.
That's,
Okay.
Yeah.
did that answer your question on the dirt? or-
Yes, yes, it
Okay.
does. We're in compliance. We're not reaching any flood zoning issues
Nor
for our
affect the neighbors or- no.
or
No.
we should be in good shape. So the decision to keep that soil on site has been a profitable one. Very
So-
positive.
About 140,000, give or take.
Construction, yeah, I think about, for the additional engineering work that went into doing the grading plan, there's about another 12,000, so
We're still
You know,
very positive.
still very positive to keep the dirt in the area rather than have to haul it off someplace.
Great.
Quick question about the flagpoles. 4 flagpoles at 16 grand apiece, those are
Not
pretty
each.
expensive
That's
flagpoles,
total.
aren't they? Total, I'm sorry, but
And lighting. And lighting.
it seems like a lot of money for 4 flagpoles. Am I missing, is that running the electrical there or something, or?
Well, again, they went out and researched it for us on the types that you ought to have, what the kind that will weather properly, and again, running the additional electric and for the light fixtures, so on and so forth. And we just thought it appropriate where that building sits, that it denote our country's state, city, and utility. But our contractor looked at several different options for us.
Okay.
Any additional questions, comments?
I asked the board to approve change order 1 for $107,435, which would bring Frederick's contract amount to $2,780,015.
I would make the motion to approve change order number 1 for the electric ops building in the amount of $107,435, and allow Jay McCoskey to go ahead and sign that change order.
May I ask one question, Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
Mike, the copy that I received is somewhat jumbled, and it didn't quite scan right. This matches, and it looked like when I compared it in the office, that it looks like it matches the change order form that was in the contract.
Yeah, it just
Okay,
didn't copy
that's-
one.
that's
Yeah.
okay.
They're getting us, something happened in transmittal, and it's gibberish.
Okay.
But we are getting the original for signature.
Okay, so
But it
the,
is exact as this.
okay, so the only thing I would just suggest then is that that be subject to Jay's approval and I guess my review, just to make sure that that matches what the change order form is in the contract.
Okay.
Agreed.
Okay. And from Gary's recused, that leaves,
Yeah, I'll second the motion.
okay. So it's been seconded. Does that mean that I should vote on this, council?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, before we move into the vote then, we have a motion and a second to approve change order number 1 for the electrical operations building in the amount of $107,435 to Frederick's Contractors, authorizing General Manager Jay McCoskey to sign on the behalf of the board after council and McCoskey have had the opportunity to review the final document. Comments, questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Thank you very much, Mike.
Just a quick question. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but maybe I will. This 107,000, how much is left in of the contingency that was set aside for these kinds of things? Do you remember? We still have a lot of flexibility there, if I remember right.
Matter of fact, I can tell you exactly, we have in contingency a remaining $217,000 for the operations building,
Key point there, remaining.
Yeah, yeah.
remaining.
Yes.
Now, if I remember right, and we've had many, many meetings on this, we meet every week with our contractors, but the only really large thing that I'm thinking still hanging out there is security system, correct? The only thing that we've been talking about left out there remaining is the security system that would come under the contingency.
Well, let's see, we've got the water line, strong box, permits, furniture, storage racks. Actually, we have building security as a separate line item, so the 200,000 is for something else.
Oh, okay, okay.
Other unforeseens at this point
Okay,
in time.
all right, so all those other things have already been included in the price, so, okay,
Yeah.
okay,
Including furniture,
yeah.
did you say?
Yes.
Including the furniture?
Yes.
Does that include furniture, was Linda's question. Jay says yes.
Furniture included in that price?
In the building cost, it's not in the contingency.
I've got the furniture as a separate line item.
Yeah.
It's a separate line
Yeah.
Then, okay.
Not part of the contingency.
Okay. Very good, thank you. Next item on the agenda, our metering and billing supervisor, Matt Hutton, is requesting approval for electrical work order software upgrade. The upgrade is a budgeted item for 2015. Mr. Matt Hutton, how are you?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
This is just the work order system that David uses to design like poles. When we go out and set poles, set transformers, that's all it is. And the upgrade makes it more user-friendly, enhanced security, and the big one is more user-friendly.
Matt, you might mention the user-friendly. From what I remember from the presentation, it sends like automatic emails like from David to the stores guy, so he knows, okay, I've got to make sure this material's here, and then he verifies then on to Pete or whoever's playing the work that, yes, it's here, that sort of thing, which was not in our current software. So that really does help speed up the
Yes, it
inventory
does.
process.
It'll set it up like, so when David will design a job, it'll email Adrian, who has all the inventory, and he can check to make sure he has that. And then when he says that's okay, it forwards it on to Pete, and then Pete will schedule it out with the guys, and once he's done with that, then it forwards it on to the guys, and then they go out and do the work, and then they come back, say they're done, and then it goes back to Adrian, and then after Adrian, when he's done with his stuff, then it goes to Sandra, and it completes its process.
So it really does help automate a lot of the manual things that we have to do now, that sometimes things get laid on desks and forgotten about, so on and so forth. Once David hits done, it starts the process.
It populates.
Right.
Across the board.
Right.
And the estimated cost of this upgrade is $38,800, is that correct?
That is correct.
And it is a budgeted item, so this is something we've discussed before.
Yes, that is correct.
Questions, comments?
Same thing with this contract, it's a little
little
jumbled.
vague.
I compared
Okay.
that to what we previously reviewed, and it looked the same, but I'd just like to see a clean copy.
Subject, then the motion, if made, should be subject to council's approval of the contract, final contract, okay? And authorizing General Manager Jay McCoskey to sign on behalf of the Lebanon Utility Board.
I will make that motion, then that we approve the work order software upgrade with Geospatial Innovations for $38,800, and allow General Manager Jay McCoskey to sign once he gets a clean contract.
Second?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve contract with Geospatial Innovations for electrical work order software upgrade in the amount of $38,800, allowing general manager or authorizing general manager Jay McCoskey to sign on behalf of the Lebanon Utility Board, subject to the approval of the final contract. Correct? Questions, comments? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same signs. Thank you very much, Matt. Appreciate it. Next item on the agenda is Mr. Waples has some information regarding sanitary manhole lining quotes. Good afternoon, Bob.
Good afternoon. We have roughly, I believe it was 22 manhole structures. A total of roughly what we show is 91.4 vertical feet of manhole structures in Edgewood that we're trying to get lined before the weather changes. And that's what this is. So we've gotten 3 quotes that came in, a fourth that did not come in. MCSP Inc. gave us a quote for $150 per foot for a total cost of $14,700. Cooley Contracting gave us a quote of $195 per foot for a total cost of $17,845. And then Indiana Reclamation did not give us, come back or respond with a quote. We also had Spectra Shield Liner System give us a quote for a fiberglass, which is $215 per vertical foot for the total package. And what the others are all cementitious versus the fiberglass. Both have strengths and weaknesses. The fiberglass is what we do for our line structures. We have done a couple fiberglass within the community just to see how they look and how they react. The guys went out and looked at some of that, and they found that what happens behind a fiberglass, which we are not, we don't know if it was just the application or what, but in that fiberglass, they could tap on the fiberglass and tell that it had separated from the structure itself. And so then what happens is then you don't see the flows, and it travels clear down and then goes down to the bottom part and then travels out. So it kind of hides an issue, where usually what happens with a cementitious, you do see that straightforward. If there is a problem, then it pops right straight out where you can see it. So that being said, we're kind of recommending still the low bid, which is the cementitious, and that was for that 150 by MCSP. That way we think we can still get this and beat this with the weather changes, and this will button up what we have for Edgewood. Okay.
Was this part of the Wessler infiltration?
It
They
is
helped
part of
identify that?
Wessler thing.
Yes.
And those numbers that we got on these footages and such came from Wessler and such.
Yeah.
Again, what we're looking at doing, and what there is a slight difference in those numbers. If you looked at Cooley's, which was that 91.5 vertical feet, and what MCSP was the 98 linear feet. The difference is that bench wall, going down and doing the whole bench wall. And MCSP is proposing to do clear to the bottom, which is to the flow line, where Cooley was just going to go down to the bench wall.
This was a budgeted item?
This is what we had as a budgeted item. We just didn't pull the trigger on it because of
Budget,
financials.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
And Bob, just curious, what's a ballpark lifespan of this type of lining?
Well, we've been doing it now for some time. We haven't really seen any failures, so we've probably got 10 years and not seen a failure yet. So that doesn't necessarily mean that it couldn't fail. just like the fiberglass. Again, it's application and making sure that how it's applied is done properly. So what they have to go in and do before they apply is to jet clean this out, and then they have to get it dry. And if they don't do that, then the adherence won't be good, and then the failures will happen, so.
What's the temperature cutoff? I'm sorry.
No, I'm just going to ask if we have a history with MCSP. Have we used them
Yes, we
before?
have.
Okay.
Okay. What's the temperature cutoff? At what point can they weather-wise not do it?
I think that we just can't do it after something like 40 degrees, that when it starts getting, staying, the ground gets 40 degrees and
Okay.
such.
Okay, 40-degree ground temperature,
Right.
not ambient
Right.
temperature.
We're well
Okay,
within that
okay, so
range.
we got a little more time then.
Right.
But I do want to mention, it's a good question, Alan, is the initial studies done by Westler on the wet flow versus dry flow indicated that the Morningside Edgewood is still our highest point of infiltration. We had relined the pipe a number of years ago, but had not relined the manholes. And one of the things they identified in the pictures that you saw they provided were issues with the manholes. And so what I asked Bob to do is get this work done now, so we'll see the positive benefit next spring.
Yeah, now is the wet time, really,
Yeah.
from October through May, it starts to get into what is considered a wet time for us, so that's where you start to see elevated flow, so. And we're still looking at doing looking at those flows with Westler, looking at extending and looking beyond, so that we can start looking outside some of those other areas too, like Jay was talking about with Westler, so.
Question. So you didn't publicly bid this, Bob? You went through the quotation process? It's a
Yes.
small amount of money?
That's
Okay.
all we did.
Down at the bottom of your letter, you'd indicated it might be less if they measure the vertical footage that
Right.
apparently you had in the quotation documents of 91.4 vertical feet.
That's what we had, right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we looked at that number, and we wanted to make sure that what they were seeing on that vertical, and the difference is going down. And so we've had conversations since then, it is covering that whole bench wall. And that's why they're looking at that difference.
Okay, so will their contract be based on a unit price or lump sum?
It's on that vertical footage,
Per foot.
So it's per foot?
per foot basis, and these are accurate measurements, so, which will include going down to the flow line.
Did the documents indicate how the vertical footage is measured?
Yes, they did. And you saw, I don't know, this sheet in your packet, which.
I didn't see that.
I don't know if this.
The one from Westler, Bob, you're
Yeah,
talking about?
Westler.
Oh, yeah.
That's the wrong one. There we go.
Yeah, okay.
This sheet here, which is,
No, that's,
and what you see is a interior lining, vertical feet, and approximate invert, which is to the flow line. So, and those are the differences. So that 91.4, which is to the right here, which is to the bench wall versus to the flow line, which is the other one. And again, what we're trying to do is we eliminated some that were just concrete manhole structures as opposed to that which are block and brick.
So even though MCSP bid all the way to the flow line and not just the bench wall, there's still less money than
There's still less money, right.
the other guys who bid just the bench wall.
That was it, right.
Okay.
Cooley's, right, exactly.
Thanks.
You're welcome. So,
any other questions, comments?
I make a motion that we approve accepting the quote from MCSP Incorporated for a not-to-exceed amount of $14,700 to line 22 manholes in Edgewood subdivision, and authorize General Manager McCoskey to sign the agreement contingent upon approval of the agreement by our attorney.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve and accept a bid from MCSP Incorporated in a not-to-exceed amount of $14,700 to line 22 sanitary manholes in Edgewood subdivision, allowing General Manager Jay McCoskey to sign on behalf of the Lebanon Utility Board upon approval of contract language by our attorney, Jeff Jacob. Questions, concerns? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you very much, Bob. Appreciate it. Next item on the agenda is approval of claims. Has everybody had an opportunity to look at the claims? If so, I would entertain a motion that we pay the claims.
I'll make that motion, please.
Second.
Moved and seconded that we approve payment of the claims. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Any other business to come to the good of the order, Mr. McCoskey?
Mr. Chairman, Board, I just wanted to update everyone that on Monday, November the 10th, I appeared before City Council to formally seek a 32% wastewater increase. And I talked as point of reference that request followed informal meetings with city council members and the mayor, a public meeting presentation by utility staff, as well as Umbaugh and Associates, a joint meeting with city council and the Lebanon Utility Board, again presented by Scott Miller of Umbaugh and Associates, on why the need for the rate analysis. Then the information from the informal meetings, the public meeting from Umbaugh was also shared then with all the candidates at the time for city offices. A high-level summary of all that is there's been no wastewater increase since 2005. Inflation since that time has been 25%. The consumer price index for utilities nationally has been 65%. In wastewater, we've decreased staffing by 25% over that period through attrition, and last year either cut or put off capital spending of $1 million to stave off the need for the increase. Since 2011, revenue from wastewater operations has not covered expenses, causing us to dip into our cash reserves. Other significant impacts in 2003, there was a loan from water to wastewater of $3 million for the Northside sanitary sewer system, and there's a $1.4 million balance that remains on that loan. In 2010, payment in lieu of taxes or pilot increased from $40,000 a year on wastewater to over $214,000 in 2015. In that 5 years, that was $780,000 that we've not had to invest in the system. Of course, pilot is allowed by the state and sets the formula for entities like Lebanon Utilities to pay the city the equivalent private businesses would for land and improvements as well as equipment. For entities like us, this is a better alternative than what many municipal utilities face, where the city takes any excess funds over and above normal operating expense to subsidize the city. Also considered in our plan is a $4.7 million capital improvements program through 2022. Via Umbaugh and this board, we looked at 7 different increase options, what was best for our customers and ultimately would fund our capital program. Ultimately, the board picked the option of doing a bond of $3.5 million that we would continue to pay the water loan from wastewater availability fees. There would be considered no reduction in pilot, and so that would be a 32% increase, or about $11.29 a month for the average residential customer. And so that's what presented to council. There was significant discussion around another one of the options that was looked at in where pilot would be not collected at 100% the first year, and then phased in over the next 5 years at 75, 50, 25, 10, and then ultimately in 2020, that option would be phased out. That would then put the increase in total at 29.8%, or about $11.23 a month. City Council is very open to that concept. However, because their budget was already approved and submitted to state, they couldn't handle that kind of reduction of over $200,000 from the general fund. So they have left that open as part of our commitment, and hopefully an ordinance that they will approve next Monday is that we have to come before council every year and give the financials for all the utilities. And they said that they would be willing to look at then, beginning in 2017, this waiving of pilot and then bringing it back in. So we're having Umbaugh and Associates figure what then the impact to rates would be when that would begin in 2017. Next steps, there'll be a public hearing before council and a second reading then on November 23rd. Then if council approves that, then we'll do a notification to all customers immediately after that of the increase, with the plan that the increase will take effect January the 1st. Of course, the greatest way that people can mitigate the increase is to reduce their water usage, because water use drives how much they're billed for wastewater. And so I'd encourage customers to go on our new website and look under the Green Options tab, and there's quite a number of options there where people can look at and consider in how they can reduce their water usage. So other than that, we started working with the city this past Monday to start putting up the Christmas decorations, and that's going very well thanks to Pete and his guys. That's an annual tradition, and I know our guys really appreciate having a hand in that. So that's the end of my report.
Fantastic, thank you. And you may have clarified this, but where we are reporting the status of utilities is not just for wastewater. That will be a report for all three.
All utilities.
So we would be reporting the status, financial status of electricity, water, and wastewater. And the goal in that is that we can get away from then, hopefully, these huge increases.
Yeah.
And we can take a more palatable approach.
Right.
That will be more ratepayer friendly.
Right. The ultimate goal being more in line with rate of inflation, something along that line, on a more regular basis, which is much more palatable, like you say, Dan. But just having that out there in front of everybody every year saying, hey, we may be looking at, for this utility, potentially another increase in a couple of years. At least people are sensitized to it versus just, boom, we need an increase.
Yes, they would be spun up and aware of
Right.
being hopefully more prepared.
Right.
And for lesser amounts.
Yes.
Fantastic.
exactly.
Thank you very much, Jay. Anything else from the board? Any comment from the public? If not, I would entertain a motion that we adjourn.
So moved.
Moved and seconded that we adjourn. Linda, what's our next meeting date?
December the 9th,
December the 9th would be our next scheduled meeting.
typically a working session.
Working session prior to will be properly advertised. Okay, fantastic, thank you. There's a motion and a second on the floor that we adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Thank you very much. Be careful. Have a nice evening.